SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Engineering, Medical and Health Sciences, Management, Dental, Science and Humanities, Law, Agriculture Sciences, Hotel Management. Admissions open.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday morning. Welcome to this morning's session as part of SRM Institute of Science and Technology's virtual conclave for career guidance, powered by The Hindu. My name is Yashaswini Rajeshwar. I am the founder and CEO of OxoHub, a development sector consultancy, and I will be your moderator for today. We are here to discuss how digital technology is changing the curriculum of management education. The subject today touches upon two hot topics of conversation: digital technology and the future of management education. In a report compiled by the World Economic Forum last year, they listed out the emerging job roles in India, and many of them fell within the intersection of the subject we will be discussing today. Information security analysts, data analysts, big data specialists, project managers, digital marketing specialists, the list goes on. To speak on this very relevant subject today, we have with us a stellar panel. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our three speakers for today in the order of their presentations. Professor V.M. Ponnaiah is the Dean of the College of Management at SRMIST. He has a doctorate in management from SRMIST, an MBA in finance from University of Madras, and a PG diploma in financial management from Annamalai University. Prior to his current position as the Dean, Professor Ponnaiah served as the Deputy Dean and Professor for the College of Management. Before his entry into academia, he worked in Indian Bank as well as in Southern Railways. Over the years of his experience, he has published and presented research articles across journals and conferences, received multiple awards, and also has a patent to his name. Our second speaker is Ms. Jaspreet Kaur, a founding member of Imarticus Learning. I hope I got that right, Jaspreet, so sorry. And joined the firm in the year 2012. She has undertaken multiple roles and was a key contributor in setting up the flagship Imarticus Center in Mumbai. Jaspreet has over 24 years of experience in financial services and attributes a lot of her key skills and knowledge to her 5-year stint at the erstwhile Lehman Brothers, before she joined Himaticus Learning. The myriad of roles she undertook at Lehman Brothers in the areas of investment banking, HR, and change management helped her to develop the diverse skill sets required during the setup phase of the firm. Jasdeep completed her MBA in marketing and has a keen interest in fitness and travel. She's also passionate about skill development and likes to contribute by conducting internal training across Himaticus centers. Our final speaker for today is Mr. Rupesh Vish, the Chief Executive Officer at Masters Union School of Business. Before joining Masters Union, Rupesh was the Director of Admissions at SRM University's Amravati campus in Andhra Pradesh. Rupesh attended the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, amongst the 10% of students on scholarship, and went on to work with its admissions team for nearly 7 years as the Senior Associate Director, helping shape several of the best practices now associated with the famous ISB model. With over 20 years of experience cumulatively across industry verticals and an eclectic mix of brands like AdLabs, ICICI Lombard, Titan, and Ambuja Cements, Rupesh is a veteran in the higher education domain. He is also an advisor to Leverage EDU, an EdTech higher education focused startup. I assumed it was tech because that was the topic today, but Rupesh, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Before I hand over the virtual stage to our speakers, a couple of quick announcements. Please keep the questions coming in the Q&A box. We will try to answer as many as we can towards the end of the session today. And secondly, as with all of our internet online based events, in case any of our internet acts up, please be kind and please be patient with us. We will be back, we promise. I think I started that this morning with bad internet, but I hope we have all managed to stay on there for the next hour. It is now my absolute pleasure to hand over the virtual mic to our first speaker for this morning, Dr. Bunaya.
Good morning. Is it audible and visible?
Yes, sir. Please continue.
My screen is visible now? Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, dear students, parents, teachers, family members, fellow panelists. It's a great opportunity that during this pandemic period, SRM Institute of Science and Technology and the Hindu group is organizing such wonderful opportunity for the class 10, 11, 12 students. I'm sure the students got rich benefit during this 15-part webinar series. Today, we are going to talk how digital technology is changing the curriculum of management education. Students and participants, curriculum is like a foundation for the superstructure, foundation for a building. Once the curriculum is in proper place, it will be easy for the graduate to come out of the college. On top of the curriculum, there will be the syllabus, there will be many subjects. Different subjects require a different way of teaching. Some of them may be purely lecture mode, some of them may be group discussion, some of them may be tutorial, lab courses like that. So for my understanding, for better clarity and easy understanding, I have prepared my screen. Is it visible now, colleagues?
The slide is not changing, Doctor.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay. Is it okay now? Is the screen
We aren't able to see your screen.
Curriculum of management education, this pictorial presentation is visible now?
No, it isn't. Yes, we can see the change now. Please go ahead.
The curriculum of management education. Okay. Okay. For my understanding or for better clarity, I have taken the stakeholders. As far as the curriculum is concerned, we are preparing the curriculum for a program like management education, BBA, MBA, like that. But the students are joining for the program had some digital technology experience and exposure. Similarly, the faculty members, the resources are also giving input how to the curriculum to be developed. There are regulatory authorities who will be able to give mandatory requirements. All these things are if in proper place, there will be a great learning by the management students. There will be a discussion, there will be a group discussion, there will be tutorial classes, there will be some subjects like lab experience, some subjects like role play. Then the students will be able to come out as a management graduate, maybe as a UG PBA or a management postgraduate as an MBA. Two options are available. He will be able to get employed or he will be able to go for higher education. Now, let me take few minutes in each of the stakeholders, what is their level of experience and what is they expect at the curriculum. For example, if you take the students are in a position to use currently, they are all tech savvy, they are quick learners. Their creative and critical thinking and problem solving abilities are there. They have a lot of opportunity to participate in virtual events. Their affordability in terms of technology, whether the bandwidth availability, compatibility, or the time, all are well established. There may be problem, but it's all possible for us to join. As far as the faculty members are concerned, decades before, a faculty member to be very successful in his career, he should be strong in his domain. If I am a marketing manager, marketing professor, I need to be very strong in the management domain. But today, it is not sufficient. He has to be very strong in the technology aid also. Gone are the days where we used the blackboard. Now we are all using the digital board. We are all using the smart board, whiteboard. So many tools are available for teaching learning process. There is a great opportunity through the Google, through the e-books, e-journals, case studies, online certificates, so many things to able the students to top on the teaching learning other than what they learn in the classes. There is an examination, how to evaluate the students' performance. All the students are joining at the same time with the same expectation, but there are distribution of their performance. We have now, because of this digital technology, a tool available for enabling the students to write the examination sitting at their house, at their ecosystem. There is a possibility to invigilate, proctor your 2 hours or 3 hours examination and give the results. Coming back to the regulatory authorities, we are all program coming under government mandatory requirements. There are certain guidelines with regard to BBA program or MBA program. There should be minimum requirement of expected outcome. The student should be communicative skill. There should be a negotiating skill. They should have the analytical skill, leadership style. So all those things we incorporate in the curriculum. Then only the course materials, the teaching learning process will be in proper place. Accreditation requirements is order of the day. It is all a third party evaluation. It's not that you are going to be a single institution in this marketplace. There are many institutions are there in the place. So you need to be better credentials will reach out to the students and the parents. So there are many institutions among themselves get evaluated by the accreditation process. And MOOC and SWAYAM courses, I have taken only 1 minute to tell the students of school education may not be knowing. The students, when they come to the college for their BBA program or MBA program, there is an opportunity for them, instead of writing all the 8 papers or 7 papers, 7 subjects in a particular course, they can continue to study one course in the MOOC. MOOC stands for Massive Open Online Course. If you are going to study that course and get a certificate, we will be giving you exemption for that particular course in this current semester. So this gives the digital technology the leverage. Academic bank credit. Today it may be a new words, but it is going to be the very shortly it is going to be affected. Like your money being deposited in a bank. This enables a student to study for a particular year, particular program for 1 year. Afterwards, there may be a need for a break out of the college. So he can, whatever he has already studied, it will be credited in the academic bank credit that can be transferred after a break of study, and he will be able to complete that course. Now we have learned what are the purposes for which the students as a stakeholder, faculty as a stakeholder, regulatory authority as a stakeholder. Now the very, very important stakeholder is the corporate. The students who are all coming out of the college have two options. Option one, they can go for the placement. Option two, they can go for higher studies. Now, if you go for the placement, every student after graduating should align his interest to a company where he is passionate about. If somebody is very passionate about a PRO type of things, he will be a very good HR professional. If he is very strong in his negotiating skills, he will be a very, very successful marketing manager. So like a company is having, organizations are having vision, mission for their growth and development, every individual, every student should have a statement of purpose, and you should be able to differentiate with his USP. And if you are going to work in a company, today's companies are having their process re-engineered. Their business process are keeping on changing. They are all likely to be in the competitive world. So their process, their production process, their marketing process, their packaging process, they're reaching out to the customer. Everything is keeping on changing because of the technology, because of the competitiveness. So that changes, you should be kept in your mind. We as a professors who are going to deliver the lectures to you, we are preparing the lesson plan, are aware of that one. Similarly, changes in the business model. The business process are changing at a lower level. When the business models are changing, it is at the higher level. 10 years back, nobody is knowing what is the door delivery system, what is Uber, what is Fast Track, what is the Zomato, what is Bharat Matrimony. All those things are new emerging business models. They are all coming into the market because they thought there is a need for the customer preference. So these all required when you go for a job. The last part before I wrap up, when you go for a higher education, you are going to have emerging studies. We have got fintech for the financial management students. For the marketing, we have the digital marketing, mass media, social media, journalism, business analytics, another emerging area. Artificial intelligence and data science is coming at a very, very rapid pace. It affects every business model. Similarly, if you are going for a higher studies, foreign studies, some of the universities have a program, enabled program, where if you are going for 1 semester, whatever you study there, that can be transferred here. If you are going for a immersion program, our founder chancellor, Dr. Parivender, used to advise in every forum that we are making our graduates coming out of the college, that is not sufficient. They should be socially responsive citizens. Luckily, fortunately, in our BBA and MBA program, like many of the programs, they have an immersion program. Every BBA student at the end of 4 semesters are going for 1 month project. Every MBA student is having, according to the curriculum, after the 2 semesters, 6 weeks, at the end of the 3rd semester, another 6 weeks. During that immersion program, the students learn from the existing organization. They are all able to learn with an empathetic view what is happening in the real field. This will make them more socially responsible citizens. Now, as a researcher, you are going to use technology at a very, very greater level. Now, all those things are said, well said. However, there are many challenges. I have picked up only 3 challenges for better understanding and discussions at this panel. Now, the corporates are using the technology at a very, very higher speed. All the colleges are imparting the technology at a speed. There is always a gap. The speed with which the colleges are imparting the technology, changing the curriculum and imparting to the students, and the speed with which the corporates are applying the technology, there is a gap. That gap is still persist. The gap should be very zero. Gap should be very, very minimum. That is the reason some of the colleges where the technology enabled curriculum and every other resources are in proper place. There is no wonder 7,000 plus students are getting campus placed. It's not happening everywhere. If it is very strong, very powerful curriculum and add on with all the stakeholders in proper place, there is no wonder it can happen repeatedly. Experiential learning, which for the management schools students, it is always required students learn from the peer level. There should be a role play, there should be a group discussion, there should be a management games, there should be a case study. All those things are required, but because of the technology or virtual, most of things are impacted. There is a minimum things are happening, but fully it is not possible. And the last thing, case study. Most of my academicians, my peer level academics who are all working in management schools will agree with me that case study is very vital for the great learning. Any real study of the business thing, what are all happening in a banking sector, in a Indian Airlines or any other organization will be given as a case study for the students to learn. As a real case study for about 1 hour, 2 hours, deliberations will take place. Students will take a role of CFO, marketing manager, promoter, founder. So they will learn what if I am in the position of the particular manager at that particular point of time, what are the options available? Why make a SWOT analysis and get a better decision making. These all sharpen their managerial skills. Now, currently, last 10 years, 8 years, when the technology is applied in the business model, in the businesses, most of the cases are not available. We are all, faculty members are developing, framing the cases that are all not available at an expected level. Now, at SRM, make it only one slide, please. With the lot of the programs we offer to the students with the technology, lot of opportunities are available for the faculty members and students with the multicultural, multidisciplinary, and also we provide for the segment of audience through online education and distance education. We are providing BBA and MBA. Now, currently, we are all requiring the need for innovate. Innovation is a continuous process, keeping on innovation so that we will be able to do whatever best possible, because technology is going at a different speed. We are all learning at a different speed. So trying to achieve new normal. Thank you for the opportunity. Over to moderator, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ponaya, for that. I now invite our second speaker for today, Ms. Jasdeep Kaur.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a nice Sunday morning. Thank you, Dr. Ponaya. That was very useful. I think from a student's perspective, it gives them a lot of clarity on what is available, what they can do, etc. So I'm going to cover something which is completely different. I'm going to touch more upon the impact of digitalization on education, which is where my firm comes in, which is where we have done a lot of work. So I represent Imarticus Learning, and we are a large learning platform where we actually offer digital education in advanced skill development topics like fintech and data science, etc. So that's where I come from. So what I'm going to cover is, let's first understand the current education landscape. So what has happened in the last 1.5 years? I think as students, you will realize that the COVID pandemic has caused a paradigm shift in the Indian education system. While most students were apprehensive of or not very comfortable with online learning, I think the pandemic pushed us to adapt to online learning like never before. So I think the change that would have happened in 5 years or potentially even longer, even in rural India, actually got crunched into that 1 year where everybody was forced to log in, whether it was children at school, whether it was students at college or in universities, whether they were logging in through a phone, a laptop, or any device, but that was the only way they could have continuous education. So that, I think, was the biggest contributor to this shift. The other thing that the pandemic has done, it has opened gates to innovative methods of transmission of knowledge. As Dr. Ponaya said, Today, colleges, schools don't have a choice but to deliver knowledge online, which means they have to become more innovative. They have to reach out to their student. They need to make sure their student is mentally comfortable with online learning. So obviously the responsibility has gone up multifold, but also they had to become very innovative almost overnight, because the pandemic really didn't give anybody time. I mean, 21st March, we get the lockdown, and schools and colleges just had to kind of, take on from there. So I think that was very critical. Then I think COVID-19 accelerated the adoption of digital technologies to deliver education. I think, again, very critical. Education institutions moved towards blended learning and encouraged teachers and students to become tech savvy. As I said, it was not optional. They had to adapt. And then suddenly we saw this surge in online webinars, virtual classrooms, teleconferencing, digital examinations, and assessments. So I think the government of India also last year in February came up with the new education policy, the NEP 2020, which I think then actually catapulted this whole effort into another level, because I think the government's push on digitization of education has been one of their primary agendas through the NEP, and I think Dr. Punaya covered part of it in his presentation. So what is digitalization in education? Let's just quickly break it down. It's basically the way forward, where we will learn and gain knowledge through means of technology and digital devices versus being in physical classrooms only. Since March 20, almost all education institutions, as I said, have adopted to it. It can be understood as any type of learning or instructional practice that makes effective use of technology tools throughout the learning process. So that's, I think, the key that we need to understand. These could range from a smartphone to a tablet to a smart board in classroom to sophisticated artificial intelligence tools for adaptive learning. So adaptive learning means that as the students, the learning is actually adapted to individual learning styles versus it being, one teacher delivering to a class of students. Technology allows us to almost offer bespoke individual adaptive learning for every individual. And I think that is the future of education. Advantages: easy access to information that is customized. And I think this is the biggest advantage, and suited to the learning need of a student. It is not a cookie cutter solution where everybody gets the same class. It depends upon what my need is, and my education can be adapted to suit my learning style. For example, if I'm a visual learner, I can be taught through visual mediums. If I'm a kinesthetic learner, maybe I can do more experiential learning. Second is increased mobility and flexibility. So learners can learn from their home. People have gone back to their villages. They have larger homes there, and they can choose their time and place of learning. There is no fixed time for school. I have to leave at 8, come back at 4. Today with digital, a lot of your self-paced learning, which is your asynchronous learning, you can do it from any time, anywhere. So I think anytime, anywhere learning has become one of the most amazing outcomes. Use of technology tools also helps to make the learning process more interactive, more collaborative, where learners converge to create a learning experience that transcends geographical boundaries. I think very critical. Today, you could be sitting in a class with a student from America, with a student from UK, with a student from London, without having to pay anything extra. You're paying an Indian fee for a global experience. So I think that's another amazing advantage of digital learning. A personalized learning experience, as I already said, interactive digital tools are more impactful than printed textbooks. So learners, because they're so actively involved in their learning, because they have to keep practicing, they have to keep getting engaged in those tools, the learning outcomes tend to be much, much better, and the retention is higher. Digital learning creates smarter students with greater accountability. I think that's the biggest advantage, in my view, is self-accountability. In a digital classroom, the student has to be accountable for their learning. It is no longer the teacher's onus. The teacher will teach, try to engage you as much, but how much you take away will depend upon the student. And I think you get immediate feedback, you get analytics, you are told how well you're doing, there could be learning paths. So clearly the students coming out will be smarter and much more savvy, plus ownership of their own learning. The way ahead, obviously, we've said it's accelerated blending learning. We're not saying that classroom education is not going to be there. It is definitely going to be there. It's going to be, though it's now going to be aided by online education as well. So there will be exclusive classroom, blended, and exclusive online. And then the student will have a choice depending upon their comfort to pick what is with them. With rapid changes in the education sector, everything from the way we teach to the way we are learning is changing. There's a broadening recognition that a blended learning approach can provide the right opportunities and flexibility for future education. A blended model of learning would allow teachers to still retain autonomy of their class whilst providing a level of education safety that means students could continue learning regardless of the world around them. Very critical today, even if somebody cannot they can just kind of log in even to a small mobile device and continue their learning if they're not able to come to a college physically. How Emarticus learning is adapting technology. I think very important, and it's not just Emarticus learning, this is a generic slide. I think every education institution is doing this today. The wide options of technology has rapidly altered the dynamics of online learning. At all learning firms, we are exploring new age technology, offering new learning journeys of the highest caliber. And there is a very proactive tech-driven approach, where all the advantages that I covered is something that we take care of along with the other benefits that I mentioned. This is very brief, I'll keep it. 2012 is when Emarticus learning started. And if you're more interested, please visit our website and you can get a lot more information. But the idea of this webinar was that digital learning is the way ahead. It is the way forward. And the sooner each one of you adapt to it, the sooner each one of you take the real advantage out of it, the better impact it's going to have on your careers. So thank you. Thank you for listening in. And Yashaswini, over to you.
Thank you so much, Jasjeet. I have so many questions. I hope our audience does too. This is just a reminder for everyone to please keep the questions coming. We will move on to the question answer session as soon as we hear from our third speaker for today. And on that note, I invite Mr. Rupesh to please take the virtual stage.
Well, thank you, Yashaswini, for the kind introduction. And thank you, previous speakers, Mrs. Kaul and Dr. Ponaya, for giving students a very good overview of the education space currently. And I'm sure that their advice and guidance would be extremely beneficial. Welcome once again, all the students and parents. Over the next 10 to 12 minutes, I'm going to further build perspective for you, which will hopefully help you contemplate and decide on your UG course. I understand that majority of our audience today are students who are looking forward to undertaking an undergraduate course. Well, I come from a management institution and I represent Masters Union, which is a new age business school based out of Gurugram, Gurgaon, where eminent personalities like business leaders, CXOs, MDs, members of parliament, and eminent public figures from bureaucracy and policy making teach. And they give students a hands-on learning experience based on their professional and personal expertise. And I'm going to talk more about the teaching methodologies later during this presentation. Our previous speakers have touched upon the fact that necessity is the mother of all invention. And while all of us have collectively battled COVID, and in the process, some families have borne the brunt of it facing severe difficulties, COVID had a huge impact on education and has forced us, all the institutions, to innovate and to adapt to the new normal. In that process, certain innovations and new methodologies have emerged, and I would like to touch upon them today. Although most of these are applicable to other areas as well, I'm going to use examples from business schools, whether they offer a BBA program or an MBA program or a PGP program to say. As educational institutions adopt technology and use digital in a big way, as explained by Ms. Kaul earlier as well, Today, we have the ability to create hybrid pedagogies. What I mean by that is inclusion of things like a technology bootcamp in a business school and the provision of remote consulting assignments offered by corporates, which offer you real world learning. So the introduction of technology component or a technology layer superstructure to say allows a management school to bring an experiential depth to the already powerful curricular framework. Technology helps create a hybrid environment where a classroom level intervention is augmented further by follow-up tasks that leverage everything from a e-learning platform to data visualization, etc. And our boot camps are a good example of how technology, especially the new age and upcoming kind, when integrated into the traditional teaching methods, deliver a far superior outcome, making it contemporary and industry relevant. Now, what are tech boot camps? So, for example, in engineering colleges, typically you learn R and Python, but today, because technology has become so central to everything we do, programming languages like R and Python should be taught to management students as well. And of course, they should get a good flavor of emerging areas like blockchain, machine learning, and cybersecurity. Now, here, somebody might ask a question. So, why are these required for management students? Aren't engineers supposed to be doing this? Well, as you grow up the management ladder as a manager, you have to understand the business and use cases for these technologies. While the implementation will be certainly done by engineers and people who can code, managers will oversee the implementation. As an example, a key question for any management decision making would be, why should I, as a example, let's say I am a hospital care provider and I'm in the top management, but the question I will ask you, the manager who's proposing implementation of blockchain is, why should we have blockchain? What is the cost? How much time will it take? And how specifically is the organization going to benefit from this? Well, if you have exposure to these technologies and you have done some bit of coding, you will understand all the business cases and use cases where this technology will bring in tangible benefits to an organization. And that is the core idea of including such things in management education. The way we see it, 5 years down the line, these technologies I talk about, like AI, ML, blockchain, cybersecurity, SaaS, will cease to be peripheral. In fact, they will form the very core of business models. And students who have their skill honed already in these areas will not merely participate, but steer the growth in those revised industry dynamics. I spoke about remote consulting assignments. Now, these are a real world business problem faced by an organization, which they bring to a business school, to the BBA students and MBA students, and get consulting done from them. They want to get a different perspective because students in a B school are very diverse in nature. They come from different backgrounds. There will be some CAs, some lawyers, some engineers, some people from social sciences. Together, they could bring in valuable perspective, which would be a different point of view for the organization. And this is a great way of learning for both students and the organization as well. Let us say organization wants to launch a new product in India, and if students have previous experience in sales and distribution, somebody has done consulting, somebody was into advertising, when all of them come together, the inputs they provide to the organization is very, very valuable. Now, moving on to the second point I want to drive home today is that management education today, we all know, has become tech focused. So we have to move from traditional specialization like finance, but not just finance, along with fintech, marketing, not just marketing, but marketing with data analytics and big data. If you look at the top organizations in the last few years in India, you would see that a lot of unicorns have come up in these areas. So in fintech, you have companies like Paytm, Razorpay, PhonePe, BharatPe, etc. In edtech, you have Byju's, Whitehead Junior, Upgrad, all these are tech companies. Then you have health tech companies, you have food tech companies, which Dr. Punay also touched upon briefly. So what is fintech really? If you look at it, fintech is made up of terms, finance, and technology, and refer to any business that uses technology to enhance or automate financial services. Recall earlier you had to go to a bank, to do all your transactions, but today it's not required. In fact, it has become so commonplace that people use the term Paytm me or GPay me, and you all understand. Well, fintech is not just about digital payments and digital wallets. It is also about a lot of other things like alternate credit sourcing, insurance underwriting, peer-to-peer lending, small ticket loans, etc. And if you, as a fresh management graduate, get a hang of these technologies and these upcoming areas, who knows, tomorrow you might also start up a company which becomes a unicorn and decacorn in some time. So a good idea for a management institution to instill those capabilities and abilities in the student is exposing them to these areas. You might think, if I'm interested in marketing, what good data analytics will do for me? Yeah. So let's say you want to build a career in advertising or brand management or new product design or consumer behavior. So today, know it for a fact that marketing professionals cannot thrive without the knowledge of advanced data analytics and data mining under their belt. You have heard this very often, data is the new oil. And think about it. In the US, companies like Walmart, Costco, etc., these companies have been using data in a big way. So they observe you as a customer. So you go there, you buy milk, and then you buy bread, and then you buy butter. So next time, when you come to these stores, you might get a specific promotional offer in a phone, on a mobile phone. That, if you buy, as an example, buy Britannia bread and butter and milk, so this combo will cost you 10% less. All that is possible because of data mining and advanced data analytics. So they understand consumer behavior, they evaluate it, and use it for maximizing organizational objectives. And not just in marketing. Look at HR. You might wonder how data analytics is relevant to HR, but really it is. So today, all the companies, the large ones especially, are using sophisticated HRM tools. They are doing a lot of HR analytics, which help them streamline their processes, which help them optimize their processes and get the most out of the HR practices. So they look into recruitment, they look into employee engagement, they look into how do you retain employees, what makes up for excellent performing employees. So in all these areas, data analytics, data mining is extremely important. So to summarize this point, the syllabus of a contemporary business school ought to be reflective of this change. And while there are a lot of short-term programs which exist in these narrow areas, you can take up a course on MOOC or some other platform. But I think it is time that the conventional standard classic MBA or a PGP-like management program builds it into the curriculum, because this is what is required in the future. And this is what will cultivate employability. And that's why you go to a premier business school. Another point I want to make, and I think Mrs. Cole also touched upon it earlier, that remote teaching and mentorship opportunities, which also brought in remote internship opportunities as an unintentional but welcome fallout of the pandemic. Today, geography is not a barrier at all. If you have the best cybersecurity expert sitting in the US and we want to learn from him, it has become very much possible. So students in India can avail the best of minds and the best of research and consulting which is happening in a particular area. And today business schools should and they must promote these. So with high-end e-learning and simulation resources at close call, we are all excited to explore joining hands with peers who come from far and wide, and work towards powerful collaborative tools and platforms. And the last point I want to make is, in this changing scenario, access to online resources has become extremely important. So you all understand that for any good quality research, you need good quality data. To come up with valuable insights, you need access to research reports and databases and journals, like CRISIL, Euromonitor, ICRA, CARE, there are many other things like JustOr, Capitoline, etc., which provide high quality data to you. And using that data that thrive at the intersection of statistics and macroeconomics and advanced mathematics, they are powerful tools for you to come up with valuable suggestions and recommendation for the corporates during your summer trainings, during your long-term assignments, during your, as I said, experiential learning program offered by companies earlier. So all those have become very, very valuable. And these skills are going to be paramount going forward. So while you choose your undergraduate courses and postgraduate courses, be mindful of this changing trend and put yourself at the cusp of technology. At least start start gaining some kind of early experience into this area, so that later you are very well aware of what is required in the marketplace, and you will be placed to harness the most out of it. Now, with this, I would like to end the talk today for me, and I look forward to answering questions for you. I wish you all the best. Over to you,
Thank you so
Yashasvi.
much. Thank you so much, Mr. Rupesh. I think we have about 15 minutes for questions, and I'm sure our audience has realized by now our three speakers have just about skimmed the surface of everything that can be spoken of, both digital tech and management are such broad, vast areas, and 1 hour does very little justice. But let me start off by asking Mr. Rupesh a question now that we have him here. Um, you spoke a little bit, you touched a little bit on blended learning of the future. Logistically, what does that look like? Does that mean classrooms are outdated concepts? Does that mean you come to a classroom but you do homework, or like what does that look like?
No, I would not say that classrooms are an outdated concept currently. With emerging trends like flipped classroom coming in, where you do basic studies at home and then you come to a classroom to discuss advanced concept with a trainer who can clear your doubts. So that is what is happening now. And in a blended model, you have the advantages and the best of both worlds. You have the faculty right there in front of you in the classroom, and you have tools and techniques. You can use boot camps to further learn and use the new softwares and new learnings and new research which is happening. So that is what I mean by propagating that the hybrid learning method should be used more effectively. You see, in class learning is very, very valuable. We cannot just jump to the conclusion that now everything is going to be online. Well, that not might well be the case, but we have to optimize, and that's the key message I have. You are mute.
Yes, it has to happen once every Zoom call, I think, that we speak with a mute on. But thank you, Mr. Rupesh. I will invite Ms. Jasjeet for my follow-up question that has a lot to do with the things that Mr. Rupesh just spoke about. Lots of parents around the world, but definitely here with our schools and colleges closed for the last 1 year, are very worried about screen addiction with online learning and just how much time children today are spending in front of laptops and tablets and phones and so on. Does digital mean no human interaction going forward, or how can we incorporate the human element into online learning? Ms. Jasjeet, for you. I'm not sure if we lost her. Give it a second. Or why don't you go ahead, Mr. Rupesh, and I'll ask her to jump in when we get to.
Sure. Well, I think the parents and the teachers and the relatives and caretakers of the students will have to treat this very carefully. Now, earlier people used to have laptops and mobile phones where they used to watch Disney Hotstar maybe, or some cartoon movies. But now, since all the students are spending a lot of time already on the laptop. Maybe the families will have to devise a mechanism that they do not resort to watching too many Disney Hotstar movies or cartoons, but involve them in family games, maybe board games where everybody is involved, and try to limit their exposure to screen, because of course it takes a toll on the eyes, and generally you feel very tired when you are in front of the screen for a long time. So those things have to be devised, and certain, I'm not a professional doctor, but I believe that one must also endeavor to undertake yoga and exercises for the eyes, because when you're looking at the computer, you're looking at a very, from a very short distance, and sometimes your eyes get uh, uh, you know impacted because of that. So if you do eye exercises and all, that is going to come in very handy. um, we cannot do away with online now, because that is the need of the day. If you're not going to a school, you will have to inevitably spend time in front of the computer or the screen. But let families try to minimize other usage as well.
Thank you. Ms. Jasjeet, if we can have you kind of add on to what Mr. Rupesh said.
Yeah,
There we
sure,
go.
actually. Yeah. So I think Rupesh has covered more or less everything. But me being a mother of two children, I could not agree more with what he's saying. I mean, as hard as we try today, I think for children have to turn to a gadget for entertainment, for friends, for education, for even it's strange, because my daughter's dance class and her art class happens online as well. So it's sad, um, because art is all about touching paint, and dance is all about experiencing your own body in the presence of others. But and I think if I ask, for example, my daughter, the first thing that you would ask God for, she says my school should start again. They're so missing the environment, the teachers, the whole warmth of each other, of being friends, of having those small fights, of eating together, sharing food. So I think that has gone away, and that's causing, and I don't think we realize as parents how much stress that is causing to our children. They're very lonely inside. So adding to what Rupesh said, my only request to parents would be spend time with your children, because they need you today more than they ever did. They always had a school to go to. They always had people to interact with. They always had a way to let out what they were feeling. They had a way to express. Today, we are adults. They don't know how to express to us. They like to express to their friends, and we've taken that away from them. So I think as parents, we need to kind of smarten up to this whole new reality of, literally going down to their level and understanding their issues, no matter how small they seem. It could just mean a fight with another student, or it could just mean my teacher ignored me on the virtual class. But for them, probably that is the end of their world. We might think it's insignificant, but they were able to resolve all of this on their own in class, because I could raise my hand and tell the teacher I did not understand this. But today they're shy of turning on cameras, shy of raising hands. And I don't know how much they're able to learn. So I think as parents, our interaction, our engagement with our children has to go up to make them capable. So I think that's my only humble request to everybody in the panel, as children, as parents. Even as children, you should take over responsibility of your own learning. Kids, you should go to your parents, ask for help. Maybe they don't know it themselves. We didn't study in the online mode as parents. We don't know how it works. But if you are struggling, if you have issues, please talk to somebody. Talk to your parents. They're your best guides. They will always have your best interest in mind.
Thank you so much. It's just reassuring the things that we've learned over the last year, that the ways in which we speak to each other and the ways in which we learn to learn have almost undergone a seismic change in the last 1 year. Dr. Punaya, a management question for you. Mr. Rupesh spoke in his piece about how management classrooms see chartered accountants and lawyers and engineers and social scientists all come together to seek a management education. In your experience, what have been the most sought after electives in management today? What are the specializations of the future?
Okay, thank you. as far as management domains are concerned, every organization, whatever may be the R&D or a manufacturing sector or agriculture sector, whatever sector is there, ultimately the person is going to have a career based on applying the management techniques. Somebody has to reach as a chief marketing manager, somebody will become a financial expert, somebody will become HR specialist. That reason, if anybody is able to join and equip MBA degree or a management degree after completing CA, after completing engineering, all those things will accelerate their career graph because they have a fundamental knowledge of their basic. He may be an engineer, he may be a financial expert, but all those things are fundamental. But during your management to your program at the postgraduate level, you come to know the various nuances of the business that help you to accelerate your career graph. And your what is required, which is most sought after or depending upon the emerging areas, emerging field, as somebody is telling that today we are all talking during the period of pandemic. 5 years back, we were all thinking that technology will add more value to the education sector. But because of this pandemic only, it's accelerated. But my one observation as a experience in this management school is anybody should map with their basic degree. To be more specific, if somebody is a mechanical engineer, he has studied MBA marketing or MBA finance, whatever it may be. If he is able to join a manufacturing company, he will grow up. If somebody is a pharma graduate and he studied MBA, either marketing or HR or finance, if he is going to join a pharma company, he will come up. A mechanical engineer with an MBA finance joining a pharma company as a finance person may find it difficult after some time because the fundamental of basic degree is always valid and it is valuable throughout your career. That is one submission.
Thank you so much. I have one more question for Mr.
Can I add a little bit to this, Yashaswini?
My next question was for you, so why don't I ask you the question and you can do both together?
All right, sure.
You had spoken about how digital has kind of leapfrogged in the last 5 years. Do you want to take a shot at what the next 5 years would look like, or is that a little much given the life we live?
Honestly, the rate at which we're seeing change, I don't want to have the crystal ball. I'd rather just let it be. But I can give my very naive view, whatever little I have on it. But to add to what Dr. Panaya said, I would say outside of course, the MBA, the master's education is critical because I think today with the plain bachelor's, you will find less value and less learning, clearly. I mean, why does one do a master's? It's not for a degree. It's for the learning experience that you will have. It is for the experience, because mostly it is the master's which gives you the experiential learning, the internships, at least in the Indian context today. I think with the NEP, that's all going to change. Bachelor's is going to become online. So for example, Emarticus is offering a BBA finance online, which is going to be experiential and going to cover fintech and blockchain and new age banking. So what I'm saying is that in my head, the overarching skill, somebody asked, the overarching skill that every student should be looking at today is artificial intelligence without fail. And I'll give you examples. You work in a bank, you don't have a choice but to get into fintech. You work with a manufacturing company and logistics, they are all AI driven today. You work with a retail company like Hindustan Lever, they are driven by artificial intelligence. You work for a pharmaceutical firm, even a hospital today, even they are driven by artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence has then its branches of machine learning, blockchain, robotics, process automation, and multiple, and data science and data analysis. And the beauty of artificial intelligence is today a BCom student can do it because there are areas which have limited coding. Of course, an engineering student fits in beautifully. Anybody with a BSc, BBA, BCA, It's an amazing way. So anybody who's done their 12th in arts or science can opt for a bachelor's in artificial intelligence. So guys, look for new things. Look for bachelor's in fintech. Look for bachelor's in new age banking. Look for bachelor's or master's programs. And I know SRM has a lot of these new age programs, and a lot of others do, and Ematicus offers a lot of these as well. But I think look for the new age tag, guys. Look for building your skill. Don't go for the traditional HR marketing only. Today, every institution is offering you the value add of the new age skills, whether it is banking in the new age, which is digital banking, because today gone are the days when banks were in the branch. They're all off the branch for the last 1.5 years. So when you get out as a banker, how will you cope with this new way of banking? So I think that is what I wanted to just add to what Dr. Panaya said, which was very relevant. And next 5 years in my head, from an education standpoint, guys, gear up. It's going to be, and I can say this with almost with certainty, and I can tell you Ematicus Learning, we are known for having classroom education. That is what Ematicus was known for. That's the brand. We have 15 centers in the entire country, physical centers. All our centers have been closed in the last 15 months. We have not been able to, and all our classroom training moved online from the 25th of March, 2020, and continues online today, right? So I think if I just look at the simple example, guys, there is no option. Whether you ask Dr. Panaya, Mr. Vish, we have all been doing this. We have just quickly adapted to technology and started delivering education in a very different fashion. Whether it is a large, well-known campus like SRM, which is very, very, it's one of the top in engineering. It's got amazing brand. It's got presence. Or it's an Ematicus Learning, which is a very pure skill building organization. Everybody, or it's my daughter's school. They have all beautifully adapted to online learning. So I think, guys, the next 5 years, unless you consciously choose to adapt, it's not going to be a choice, by the way. It is not that anybody's going to have an option, because today we have COVID, tomorrow, the way this world is looking, you don't know what else could strike us. And hence, online education is the new normal. The blended education methodology. Today, any which ways, UGC is proposing a 60-40 blend in management education with 40% coming from online. So the NEP itself, the new education policy itself, I think the government is going to push every institution in this direction. So to the students, my only appeal would be, guys, the sooner, and all of you are fantastic with technology. Actually, I go to my daughter for most of my stuff. For my Zoom, for my back, I didn't know how to set up this background, for example, and I know it's not proper even now, but my daughter set it up for me and she's only 12. So all of you are very tech savvy kids. You are the future of this country. Adapt and learn, adapt and learn. The more you do it, the faster you're going to get. And stop running. Don't run. Go with the pace. Just go easy in life. Don't run on a treadmill. It's not going to help you running on a treadmill. I ran on a treadmill all my life. I've got 25 years of corporate experience behind me, and I've done really well for myself. But now I realize if I had not run the treadmill and just been myself, just did what I wanted to do, what I was good at, without the pressure of my parents or my teachers or somebody else telling me what is right for me, I would have been far more successful, right? So I became a banker. I didn't even have a degree in banking. I just got into a bank because it was respectable to get into a bank for a woman at my time. I became a banker by default. I was an art student. And it's worked out beautifully for me. I mean, I went from retail banking to corporate banking to investment banking and then edtech. But frankly, you guys have the choice. It's in your hands. If you think you're an excellent journalist, please go be a journalist. Don't try to be a doctor. If you think medicine is your passion, don't do anything else but be a doctor. So please try, follow your heart and don't run the world's treadmill. It's not going to help you. That's my only appeal. So go online and follow your heart. If you follow your heart, you'll be very, very successful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Steve. I'm going to take 2 more minutes of everyone's time, and ask Mr. Rupesh our last question for today so that we can bring this conversation back to tech skills. Mr. Rupesh, what tech skills would you recommend that someone who's just entering an undergrad program ought to know to prepare for the future?
Oh, well, when I look at schools these days and kids, very early on, they are equipping themselves with programming languages like R, Python. And these are not just meant for engineers. I think going forward, every person should have a basic understanding of these languages so that they can adapt to the fast emerging digital and technological paradigm. And that would put everybody in a position to further leverage and achieve what they want to do in their careers going forward. So that's my general to say advice to all the young students, because they are right now, some of them are in class 10th and 12th. And then using the UG course, they could further figure out what is it that interests them. As Ms. Call also said, it is very important to do what you love if you really have to succeed in life. If you were also to look at what are the emerging sunrise sectors where I should prepare myself for, because students might have this question, I don't have exposure, my family background is not from corporate, my parents are government employees, and we really don't know what is going to emerge in the future. A good way of identifying a sunrise sector would be look at where are investments happening. So where are private equity, venture capital, angel, investors investing? And if you look at that, whether be it transportation, be it education, be it healthcare, be it catering, you will see that a common underlying thread there is technology. So anything which is tech and digital enabled is looking to be very, very promising for the investors. And these are the areas which will continue to grow. Companies like FANG and all these new unicorns and decacorns, which are mushrooming in India today. One should be in a position to later join a department or an area where your heart lies, but in these industries and functions, and that would set you for success. So that is my advice to all the youngsters and parents here today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rupesh. I think if we had to put our three speakers together, we have some solid takeaways for young students today. Find out what your heart wants, what you're good at, find out what the tech and digital aspects of these fields are, and build up that expertise from early on so that by the end of your master's, you have had a significant exposure and experience in those specific fields. On that note, thank you so much, Dr. Ponaya, Ms. Jasjeet, and Mr. Rupesh for joining us on this Monday morning. Thank you to all of our participants for spending Sunday morning with us as well. And on that note, have a great weekend, everyone. Goodbye.
Yashaswini, thank you for being a wonderful host. It was a pleasure attending the webinar. Thank you, Dr. Ponaya and Mr. Vish. Pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, my co-panelists.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.